everybody doing tonight?
Hey-o.
I know, it's pretty awesome because today we're going to preach to the campus. So we're going to try that one more time. How's everybody doing tonight? That's awesome. I thought I was in the marriage ministry for a little bit. But I'm just excited just to be here. And it really is an honor, just to speak the words of God. And I want to let you guys know that every time I come up here, I look at you guys and I go wow, these are God's people.
Come on, bro.
So it's super an honor just to speak to you guys, and I really appreciate that. So I want to just thank also just Joel and Caesar and everybody else who put this together. Thank you guys for a quick prayer, because I know we got 15 minutes. So I don't know if it starts right now or after my prayer. Dear Heavenly Father God, I pray, Lord, that you just be with us, God. We thank you for this awesome time, God. We thank you for this campus devotional, God. We thank you for everything that you're doing, God. I pray, Lord, that you change our hearts, God. Allow us to make a single decision, God, to be more like you, God. We love you so much, God. I pray, just move me aside, God, and just speak through me, God. I pray, God, that today you're glorified. And not just glorified, God, but I pray today you're remembered, God. We pray for these things, Lord, and in Jesus' name, amen. Let's turn our Bibles to Genesis 18. Take a little bit of old school. As you guys know, the theme is boldness. And that's super awesome. So we're going to start and really talk about one of the boldest men in the Bible. Not the boldest, but one of them. Genesis 18. And we're going to pick it up in verse 16. So it says, when the men got up to leave, they looked down towards Sodom, and Abraham walked along with them to see them on their way. To give you guys a little bit of context before I continue reading, here we see Abraham talking to these men. And these men came to tell Abraham that he was about to bear a child. And I mean, just imagine that. Like, you're old in your age. And as you know, if you read the New Testament, it says that Sarah's womb was described as good as dead. And then someone comes and they say, you know what, you're going to bear a child. So let's pick it up. So we know these men come with a great message. It says, then the Lord said, shall I hide from Abraham what I'm about to do? Abraham will surely become a great powerful nation, and all nations on earth will be blessed through him. For I have chosen him so that he will direct his children and his household after him to keep the way of the Lord, by doing what is right and just, so that the Lord will bring about for Abraham what he has promised him. Then the Lord said, the outcry against Sodom and Gomorrah is so great, and their sins is so grievous, that I will go down and see what they have done is as bad as the outcry that has reached me. If not, I will know. The men turned away and went towards Sodom, but Abraham remained standing before the Lord. The title of the charge is The Boldness to Stand Before the Lord. So here we see these men talking to Abraham, and they have come from a message from God. And God comes to these men, and God comes to Abraham and he tells him, shall I hide this from Abraham? That I'm going to destroy Sodom. I mean, why would I? Is he not a righteous man who's going to lead his family? I mean, just imagine that. If God told you everything he was going to do, would you still do the same things? Wow. Would you look right for yourself, or would you be righteous in the eyes of God? And here we see God looking at Abraham and telling him, no, I'm not going to hide this from him. And for some of us who know, in Amos 3, you don't have to turn there, verse 7, it says, surely the Lord does nothing without revealing his plans to his servants, the prophets. Wow. See, God is always telling us what he's going to do next. Yeah. But the next question is, are we listening? Oh. See, in Abraham here, he is told by God that Sodom is going to get destroyed. And these three men, what do? They go towards Sodom. They obey. But Abraham does something different. It says that he remains before the Lord. As we know, this is a year of great boldness. What boldness means, when translated, means willingness, confidence, and trust. Wow. But what does it mean to remain? It means to endure, to present oneself and to become a servant. See, Abraham remained before God. To do what? To present himself to God. And to be a servant of God. See, for us as disciples, we understand that to stand before God doesn't mean just to obey God.
That's right. Come on, bro.
Come on, George.
But to really serve God, to understand God, to trust God, and to have a confidence from God. See, when you're standing before the Lord, you can go anywhere. But today we're going to look at 2 points. And we're going to look at what we need to learn to endure to really present ourselves to God and become servants of God for the miracles on campus. Let's go to our first point, Genesis chapter 18. We're going to keep reading in verse 23 and 27. And it reads like this. Then Abraham approached him and said, will you sweep away the righteous with the wicked? What if there are 50 righteous people in the city? Will you really sweep it away and not spare the place for the sake of 50 righteous people in it? Far be it from you to do such a thing, to kill the righteous with the wicked, treating the righteous and the wicked alike. Far be it from you. Will not the judge of all the earth do right? The Lord said, if I find 50 righteous people in the city of Sodom, I will spare the whole place for their sake. Then Abraham spoke up again. Now that I have been so bold as to speak to the Lord, though I am nothing but dust and ashes. Point number 1 is the boldness to speak to the Lord. So here we see Abraham talking to God. And he comes to God. Will you not be righteous? Will you judge the wicked and the righteous the same way? I mean, just imagine that. The courage to speak to God.
Come on, bro. Good point, bro.
You know, I can imagine myself just standing right next to Abraham as he starts saying those words. And he's like standing right here. And I'm like just moving this way. You know, I pray he just smites him. God, that's his conviction somewhere. But see, Abraham came and he had the boldness to speak to God. See, we got to be people who come ready to speak to God. You know, to get in the presence of God. Amen. But see, in this case, the word bold, what it translates to, is to be resolved, pleased, and willing. Wow. See, for some of us, we're not resolved in what we're doing for God. As a matter of fact, we're not even pleased to do it. We're not even willing. See, we got to go to God to really change our hearts. To be resolved, to be pleased, and to be willing. See, if we really want to see miracles on campus, we got to do it with God. And it's not about always being a yes man. But it's really about changing your heart to God, for God. But here, you know, when I think of this, you know, I really think of an example of this man named Jonathan. He's from the north region in LA. It said that Jonathan fasted until his parents got baptized. Basically, he only drank water. What does this mean? 18 days later, both of his parents just got baptized. But why do I say that? Because here we see a man who had the courage to go before God and challenge God. Who here has ever fasted? Raise your hand. I know for me, every time I fast, I get a bunch of free stuff. And I have to say no. Oh my gosh. Right. Why don't you ask me tomorrow? Right? I mean, just imagine that. Just put yourself in Jonathan's shoes. I mean, you haven't eaten and it's day 7. I don't know about you, but I'd be asking myself, I don't know if this is a righteous God. Maybe I'm doing this for the wrong reason. It's day 7. God, I think I'm just being prideful. Maybe I should stop. Well, let's turn our Bibles to Jeremiah 30, verse 21. Jeremiah 30, verse 21. And I'm going to read here, and it reads like this. Their prince will be one of them, and their rulers will come from the midst of them. I will cause him to draw near, and he will approach me. For who would have the boldness and dare approach me, says the Lord. And another version it says, who would risk their life? See, we got to be men who are bold enough to speak to God. And not just speak to God, but risk our lives for God.
Come on, George.
See, when I think of Jonathan, I think of someone who really just put his life on the line. Not just spiritually, but also physically. See, he had the courage to trust God. You know, anyone who's scared to risk their life hasn't given up everything in their life.
Come on, bro.
Like, what are you scared to risk? I love studying the Bible with people. And I remember when I first studied the Bible, when we all started studying the Bible, we all think that we're betting on God. Like He's the risk. But we gotta understand, God's betting on us. God's not the risk, you're the risk. But yet we pray to God as if He's the risk. We come to God as if He's the one that we're hoping He makes it. No, God's hoping you make it. But there's a couple things we gotta be bold in. See, we gotta be bold in our prayers. What does that mean? Everybody here has to pray. I want to challenge everybody to pray for an hour. You know why you won't pray for an hour? Because you don't think it'll make a difference. You gotta be bold in your fasting. I mean, when's the last time you sacrificed something to get closer to God? When's the last time you did something radical to be closer to God? And really, we just got to be bold in our evangelism. See, for a lot of us, we got to understand that sharing our faith is literally that, sharing your faith. See, if you're not fired about being in the kingdom, so is the person that you're sharing with neither going to be fired up. See, you gotta be fired up to get someone fired up. See, you gotta have faith before you share faith. But let's turn our Bibles. I mean, before we continue on, I really want to just encourage everyone here to really have the boldness to speak to God. To have amazing quiet times. To really radicalize your prayer life. And most of all, to really radicalize your evangelism. But let's go to our second point to close it out. Let's go to 2 Corinthians chapter 4, verse 10. You guys excited to be here? I couldn't tell from up here. 2 Corinthians chapter 4. Some of you guys are acting like as if you didn't pay for your registration. 2 Corinthians chapter 4. Let's start in verse 10. It says, we always carry around in our body the death of Jesus, so that the life of Jesus may also be revealed in our body. For we who are alive are always being given over to death for Jesus' sake, so that His life may also be revealed in our mortal body. So then, death is at work in us, but life is at work in you. It is written, I believe, therefore I have spoken. Since we have the same spirit of faith, we also believe and therefore speak. Because we know that the one who raised the Lord Jesus from the dead will also raise us when Jesus presents us with you to Himself. All of this is for your benefit, so the grace that is reaching more and more people may cause thanksgiving to overflow to the glory of God. Point number 2 is the boldness to speak to others. So here we see Paul talking to the church. And it says, all of us here have been given over to death, so others may live. So what does that mean? The more we try to live, the more others die. That's it.
Good point, Jorge.
And he comes here and he says, death is at work in you. Why? So life may be working someone else. But he comes and he says, we have the same spirit of faith. I mean, that's the one thing that I appreciate about the movement of God. That we have the same spirit of faith. When you go to the Mexican, with a Central American conference. They're the Middle East conference, Come on, guys. These are prophecies of you guys going. But when you go to all these conferences, what do you see? You see the Spirit of God moving. But it says we believe, but therefore we speak. This year has been a really, challenging year for me. I know for me, this year has been a really big battle, and I'm not used to battling like this. I really battled a lot of insecurity, and I'm so foreign to it that I freak out. It's like I'm not insecure, I'm mad. I'll call it something else. I can't be secure, that's for weak people. I battle, arrogance. pride, bitterness. You're really placing my hope in all the wrong things. And I've learned that if you're scared to speak before men, it's because you're not kneeling before God.
Wow. Come on, bro.
Preach it.
And it's crazy cool what God teaches us. But I'm really happy to go through all these things. I am. Because I know that one, I'm going to overcome, and the only reason is because God loves me. That's it.
Come on.
But I really want to challenge everyone here. It says, the boldness to speak to others. I want you guys to have the boldness to get open at a heart level. What does that mean? It's not just what you did. It's what you felt and what you thought. To get advice. Not just about your life, but about your heart and your mind.
Yeah, come on.
What else? For us to really have a radical, campus year, we got to get dreaming and we got to start coming up with goals for this year. I want to challenge everyone today to share 3 of your goals to 3 different people here. 1, a personal goal. 2, a campus ministry goal. This can't be a campus blitz if only your leader has the goal. It can only be a campus blitz if all of us have a goal for the campus. And the last one is, share a goal given to you by your disciple or your leader. See, for a lot of us, we have a lot of our own goals. But I want to challenge you to have someone else give you a goal. Give you a challenge. For this year of greatness. And the last thing I want to challenge you guys is to get bold. I want everybody here to be bold enough to use your voice. Brave enough to share your heart. Fearless enough to live God's dream. And courageous enough to do it again. To God be the glory.